This is a big one, the MI State Sunshine Award. This is a big one right here we talked about. It was very nice to get this one, yeah. So this is, the Sunshine Award is presented to elected officials who demonstrate an exceptional commitment to open government and the fundamental principle that taxpayers deserve clear visibility into how their government operates. So this was a big one, the MI State Sunshine Award. Some people didn't think it exists, but it's been here. It's been here for weeks, honestly. So it's very nice. We got a lot of them, but I won't show you all of them today. But anyway, we had a good day. We had a good convention. Everyone see the convention? I mean, I don't think there could have been a louder pop than the one the Midwesterner got. That was big. So did you hear that, Travers? That was a big one, yeah. Cranes would have got a big one too, but I didn't mention Cranes, but I should have probably. It would have been a loud one. I mean, people read Cranes all over, and some big stories you guys have been writing lately. But anyway, no, it was great. It's great to be back. Really happy that we were able to adopt the big proposal today to put money out of politics. You know, that was a big one. To stop these utilities and all these other big corporations, the hospitals and everybody else, the big insurance companies. We're trying to stop them from putting their money into politics and corrupting politicians and screwing the people of Michigan. That's really what we're trying to do. So I thought it was a great thing. You know, this great group of grassroots people, they worked really hard. They got the petition signatures. And let's remember how this works. They're getting these petition signatures to put it before the legislature. That's what an initiated petition is. So they're getting signatures to put it before the legislature. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut the governor out of this process. So they're trying to force a question before the legislature and to avoid going to the governor. That's what they proposed. And so the question before us today was, are we going to vote yes? Are we going to vote no? Or are we going to punt this question and not take action, right? And ultimately, when I reviewed it, I looked at it and said, you know, in this situation, the better answer is yes. We're going to vote yes, because on the balance, the proposal before us will move things in a more positive direction by getting a lot of this money out of politics. So we thought that was a good thing, and you saw the Republicans move ahead with that today. We had 56 Republican votes, and it was very nice to be joined by, I think it was 21 Democrats, including Ranjit Puri, their leader, many others. So we had a very wide bipartisan vote to get the money out of politics. And I would say if, you know, I've heard the argument that that there's an attempt to put this on the ballot. I would just say this. If that was the purpose, they could go and do a constitutional amendment, and a constitutional amendment would go, that would go on the ballot, right? That's not what we have here. What we have here is one of these processes where the purpose of this is to put it before the legislature. And so we dealt with a similar one when we did Unlock Michigan, right? They get the signatures. They put the question before the legislature, and we vote yes, we vote no, or we punt it. We don't make a decision, and then the voters have to decide for us because the legislature won't act. So we have been a very active body in the House. You see how many session days we've had. We've put up a lot of bills, and so we wanted to take a stand on this and put it forward so that we're being responsive to the people who signed this petition, and we're saying, you know what, this is a good thing. We need to get the money out of politics. I mean, you look at it. I mean, what have we done this whole time? We're getting rid of the corporate giveaways, right? We've been getting rid of all that stuff, the SOAR fund, The 21st Century Jobs Fund, we've been getting that out of there. We've ended the secret spending. We're getting rid of all that secret pork that went to some of the most connected people and corporations in the state. We stopped the corporations from getting pork. We ended the secret pork. And then we stopped politicians from becoming lobbyists. That was a big one. And then we stopped them from being lobbyists while they're politicians. And so I see this as a natural progression of that. Myself, when I ran for office the first time, I was a target of hundreds of thousands of dollars of dark money. Some of that came from organizations affiliated with utilities, so I get it. I get it completely. Now, fortunately, I was able to overcome that. But then you saw it happening again with Steve Carra, right? And you saw consumers, linked groups go after Steve Carra. And I just said, look, we got to support Steve. And you probably saw I defended Steve. We had Steve's back, and Steve won. But we've got to get this out of politics. I think the people don't want hundreds of thousands of dollars of dark money linked to large organizations and corporations that are doing business with the state. They don't want that. And I think for me, I'm the ultimate reformer and outsider up here in the Capitol, and you all know that. And I've tried to challenge the status quo. I've tried to take on a lot of the big lobbies. And I think this will really help me in that effort. If we can get this over the line, I think it'll really help me in making all those reforms and continuing on this effort. I mean, we're trying to lower costs for people. We've got a big bill up tomorrow to stop these hospitals from doing these facility fees. You guys see that in committee. What these hospitals are doing is they're buying up all the independent practices, and then what they're doing is they're charging these hidden facility fees. So it averages about $200 per doctor visit. So they buy up the independent practices. Then when you go see your doctor, because it's part of the system, you have to pay an extra $200 fee that you didn't know about because they were acquired by a hospital system. But yet when you go forward and you try to change that process, which is something that I'm trying to do with Kurt Vanderwall tomorrow, you're dealing with all of these very powerful lobbies that get a lot of money from the state, and they're spending so much money to try to influence the politicians. And so if we clean all that up, we'll get a government that works better for the people, and that's really what I'm trying to achieve with the House Republicans. Hey, Gideon, do you have that award? You guys are going to love this. This was hot off the presses right here. I got to show everybody. You want to come up, Gideon? This is our press secretary. Come here, Gideon. Look at this for the people on the stream. This is, how long have you been doing this, Gideon?
15 years.
15 years. It's probably your first time on TV.
Yep.
So look at this. He's a great guy, does a lot of work for us. And but anyway, this is the, and by the way, Beth probably doesn't think this is real either. But the County Road Association of Michigan's Distinguished Service Highway Industry. So distinguished service in the highway industry from the County Road Association of Michigan says, with deep appreciation, CRA presents this award to Speaker of the House, Matt Hall, for using his knowledge, time, and passion to help advance Michigan's county road and bridge system. So this was a big one. You see this? This is the highest award from the County Road Association of Michigan, and this is because of the bipartisan roads deal that I made with Gretchen Whitmer, the biggest roads deal in Michigan's history. Nobody thought we could get it done, and I did. I worked really hard on that, and it was very nice to get this award from the County Roads Association of Michigan. And I've mentioned there's 5 great lobbyists in this town, and the only one that so far has been named is Ed Noyola, but he's pretty good. And all the rest of the lobbyists, they hate me because I'm trying to get money out of politics. And I think we took a big step today. So my hope is that when he brinks now, we'll bring the Senate back and do their job and take a vote, and let's get this thing done. So I'll stop there. I'm sure you guys have some questions, and it's okay if you don't. So. Go ahead, Elaine.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer sent a letter today asking the legislature to move on the 9 bills of notoriety, infamy, whatever. Do you have any intention to revisit those?
So the question is, Gretchen Whitmer sent a letter to the 4 legislative leaders asking them to take action on some bills, and you're asking if we're going to do that. Well, I would say the first thing is we'd have to get the Senate back in session. I think it's really important they come into session because we need them to act to pass this proposal to get the money out of politics. We can make it a guarantee. We can do it right now. I would say, this thing might not pass. I mean, that you figure the special interests, they could come out, they could oppose this thing with big money, with dark money, and defeat it. That is a possibility. So to me, I think we have a duty to act. And now this is sitting before the Senate, and I'm hopeful they'll come in and do it. Now, have they passed these bills? Do you know?
It would be the 9 bills that were
Yeah.
killed with
Have
the
they
court
passed?
case.
You-
I think
yeah.
some of them have maybe been reintroduced.
Yeah,
but
so the Senate has reintroduced some of them, but not passed them out of the Senate. So, it's a bunch of talk right now at this point. But I think if the Senate Democrats want to come in and they want to make deals, we'll make deals. I mentioned this at the time I was asked about this. I mean, we're working on the Hospital Cost Review Board, where we want to dramatically lower healthcare costs for the people of Michigan. It's something that's very important to me, is lowering the healthcare costs, cutting the cost of prescription drugs, cutting people's out-of-pocket costs, lowering the insurance premiums. And we can do that if we have an independent healthcare review board that's forcing them to lower their rates and really examining their rates and getting rid of all of the waste. There's a lot of waste in the healthcare system too. We're looking at the efforts to force the utilities to lower their rates by $1 billion. And so we've put some things like this on the table. We're talking about dramatic property tax relief for the people of Michigan. It'd be about $1,000 a year they would save in their property taxes through our efforts to eliminate the state property tax. So we've put some proposals forward on the table, and what I've said to the Democrats is we're more than willing to make a deal, right? And what I try to tell our people is, the Democrats are going to get wins in a deal, but if we get a good return, if we get the things we're advocating for, then everybody walks away happy, just like we did when we saved Medicaid, right? And we cut all that waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid system, including implementing President Trump's work requirements. You look at the efforts to stop the autism provider fraud and the child care provider fraud, and getting rid of all of these people that are committing fraud in the Medicaid system. So, we can make a deal if the Democrats will come in, and I'm hopeful we'll make a deal on a few things before we're done before the election. Did you have something?
Yeah, I guess a lot of supporters of the Money Out of Politics petition in the Senate, they say that this is an effort to make it easier to change amend the initiative down the line. Could you respond to that?
Well, they were the ones that chose to move forward with a process that puts it in front of the legislature, right? There's 2 paths you can go. One path is, an initiated law that goes before the legislature. And the way that works is if you get enough signatures, it goes before the legislature. It forces it to be on their agenda. And the House and the Senate either must act on it, they must put forward an alternate proposal, or they must kick it to the voters, right? The other path is a constitutional amendment where if you get enough signatures, it goes before the voters. Now, people who did this, they chose the initiated legislative route. So that means they chose a process that puts it before the legislature. Now, what's interesting about this is not required to go before the governor. So, one of the reasons that this process is chosen by by people is to get a vote of the legislature, and this is ultimately a substitute for the governor's signature, so you don't need the governor's support to do it. So they put it before us, and we said, yes, this on its balance is a good proposal. It accomplishes more good than bad, and we need to get the money out of politics. And, you know, you see those big utilities, right? They're spending millions of dollars, and our energy costs keep going up, right? You see that with the big insurance companies and the hospital systems, and the healthcare costs keep going up, right? So we're seeing it over and over and over where these big money industries are spending millions of dollars on politics and on donating to politicians, and everything keeps getting more expensive. So it's really a broken system that doesn't work for the people. And so we saw this proposal before us, and we said, look, we have a duty to act. This is before our body. We either act, right, or we punt on the question and force the voters to have to do the work for us. And I think really the only reason that you would do that is because you're controlled by these special interests and all of their dark money. So, you know, again, I'm the ultimate outsider here, right? I'm the reformer. I mean, you look at this. Before me, they had all the secret spending. We got rid of it. With the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan, we ended the revolving door where the politicians, they leave office and become lobbyists. We've shut off a lot of this corporate welfare spending through SOAR and the 21st Century Fund, and now we're ending the corrupt influence of this money in politics. That's what we're doing. So I'm hopeful the Senate will come in and act on it and do their job. But, you know, they're not in a lot, and so we'll see. But I hope they come in. They should. Winnie Brinks should come in. Go ahead, Remington.
Speaking of Winnie Brinks,
yeah.
she has already said that she is deferring to the will of the voters, that there's enough signatures to go forth, that she's not going to take this up legislatively in the Senate. What is your reaction to that? And do you think that she should?
Well, I think if that were the case, she'd be making a mistake. You know, you see this, right? This is pretty historic, you know, that this petition has come forward to bring the money out of politics and stop some of these big corporations from spending millions and millions of dollars to corrupt our political process. The House now has taken a historic vote on it, and the only thing that is waiting to make this the law and to clean up our politics is for Winnie Brinks to bring the Senate in for a vote. And so I hope she reconsiders, and I hope she does. And if she doesn't, then it's because she's controlled by a lot of these corporate influences and this dark money. And I know the Senate Democrats, they get a lot of money from these people. I think the difference between me and them is I'm an outsider, right? I mean, I've taken on a lot of these systems. We've beaten them. We've forced reform, and this is just another step to do it. So I hope Winnie Brinks comes in and does it. I mean, they have scheduled session days between now and the deadline, and I think they'd be smart to come in. And I think if they don't, I think it'll hurt the Democrats' chances to keep a Senate because, again, this is a question that is put forward before the legislature. That's the purpose of this signature. They signed a petition with the purpose of putting this before the legislature. And only if the legislature doesn't have the guts to act does it go before the voters. And I think it's a shame if the Senate Democrats and Winnie Brinks don't have the guts to act to put the money, take the money out of politics.
So this is a follow-up. Should the voters, or should the Senate not act and this go to the voters, will you yourself vote in affirmative?
Yeah, I voted for it today, and I'd vote for it then. My concern is, though, the voters shouldn't have to vote on this because they signed a petition calling on the legislature to put this action forward and to vote on it, and that's what the House Republicans did today. Yeah, go ahead, Beth. Beth didn't get to ask a question. I know you guys like Beth. We got to let Beth ask a question.
This morning, the Michigan Strategic Fund voted to approve $50 million for ET money. And they said the way that they got the money, they're pulling it from the 2022 budget line. And they said because of that, they don't have to go to the legislative appropriations committees.
Yeah, so I would say I've tried to draw attention to the fact that under Gretchen Whitmer, they've accumulated, I believe it's $12 billion of slush funds, and they're collecting $600 million of interest a year off of these slush funds. So you think about it, you know, they're asking at times for tax increases. Remember, last budget, Whitmer asked for a 16% increase in spending and several tax increases, and I blocked it all, and the House Republicans did, and we ended up with a budget smaller than the year before, and we stopped all of the tax increases. So as we're looking at this, I would just say they've got enough money. They've got enough money. I mean, they're acting like they had to take money from the rainy day fund, and they're acting like they had to raise taxes, but yet here's $50 million that they pulled out from under the seat cushion to fund the Copperwood mine up north in the Upper Peninsula. And I'm telling you, I went through this with them, and I saw every one of these funds that they tried to drain to grow the government and to increase spending and to do more of these pork programs. And I blocked every one of them. I blocked every single one I could to try to plug a budget hole with that. I'll tell you this, think about this. We could have spent probably remember the Democrat trifecta where they had an extra $9 billion? We could have done that. We could have spent $9 billion more if I would have let them drain all these funds, but we blocked it. That's how we made the government smaller. But in this case, it doesn't surprise me that they, pull out another $50 million from under the seat cushion that they claim they didn't have, and they had to raise taxes, right? And they're flush with cash. That's why I stopped all their tax increases and said we couldn't take money from the rainy day fund. So it doesn't surprise me at all. But I think one of the good things here is we did force them to drain, I believe it was $450 million out of the SOAR fund, and we cut off all of the future funding for the 21st Century Fund. And these were two key pots that they were continuing to use for their corporate giveaways. So we shut those down, and I was happy about that. And, they're going to keep doing these kind of things until they're out of money.
The SOAR law requires the legislative appropriations committees to approve this funding. They're using SSRP funds under the SOAR program for these projects and saying they don't need approvals from the appropriations committees. Are you as speaker going to challenge that?
Well, I'll take a look at what you're referring to, these details. My understanding was that the MSF acted and they pulled some money out of some fund that had been sitting there that I think had gone through the approval.
It was in a supplemental, but I don't think it went through the appropriations.
So we'll pin that down, the details. All right, we'll pin that down. So that's good. Thank you. You think they're going to break? Now, let me ask you this, Beth. Do you think Gretchen Whitmer would break the law?
Huh?
Do you think the Whitmer administration would break the law?
I think if they did, we wouldn't challenge them.
You don't think we challenge them?
Well, I don't think they're going to do anything about this one.
Interesting. Well, we've taken them on many times, and every time I've taken them on, I've won. Sometimes unconventional, but we've won every time, including the 9 vetoed bills and the work projects where we sued every department in state government, and we got 100% settlement. Money went back in the general fund, and that's how we stopped a tax increase too. So we'll see. But I'll tell you this, if I do fight them, I'll win, because I've got probably the brightest legal mind in Lansing in Andrew Fink, and him and I, we run through these things, and then we figure out the right call to make, and I've won every time, and I'll keep winning on these lawsuits. Did you have something, Colin?
I guess let's say the Senate does have a change of heart and it does pass this into law, are you committed to next session not touching it at all?
Well, I think you'd have to see, what the courts do. Do you know what I mean? So we'd look at what the courts do. You know, one of the concerns that I have is that you're going to have legal challenges to this, and you could have courts that come in and they try to change this from what the intention was. And so I think you got to look at those things. You know, you have these very liberal judges, so I think you'd have to look at those things. But you know, I would say, like I've thought about this. I mean, we have the like, for example, there's Democrat politicians that are constantly lobbying me to increase the legislative pay. And you know, there's that what is it called, the compensation committee. They met and they recommended a 30% pay increase for the legislature. And Winnie Brinks and I, we could just come in one day and do that on a voice vote, really, and it'd move, you know. And we don't do that, right? And I think she would do it, but I won't do it. And the reason is because I don't think that's the right thing to do, you know. And so when I look at these things, you know, I think ultimately we approve it. We have to assume we're not going to change it. And if you do change it, the voters are going to hold you accountable, right? So that's why I bring up the other example. We could do it. We could do the 30% pay increase for the legislature, but the voters would hold us accountable. So if you came in and you amended the proposal in the next session and gutted it, the voters would hold you accountable. And so I see that as a check on that. I think once this thing gets approved, which I'm hopeful it will get approved by the Senate, and I'm hopeful Winnie Brinks will come back in, I don't think you'll see substantive changes to it because I think the voters would hold them accountable. The problem is getting it on the agenda. And that, because, you know, right, I mean, I put up the bill to stop the politicians from becoming lobbyists. And the politicians were grumbling about it, but once I put it on the agenda, it passed. They all voted for it. They all work against it behind the scenes, including some of the leaders in the Senate, and then it passes. So what happened here is the people of Michigan, by signing this petition, put it on the agenda, and then I put it up for a vote because I heard them, and it passed with 77 votes, including many Democrats and Ranjit Puri, their leader. And so I'm hopeful that Winnie Brinks will do the same thing and do the job, right? Get off the campaign trail and do the job and put this thing up for a vote, because that's what they signed a petition for. Go ahead, Mr. Eggert.
You mentioned legal challenges,
Yeah.
potentially. Did you consider putting an alternative on the ballot?
I did. You know, I thought about an alternative. And ultimately, I didn't think we could get there because I think it's quite an effort to get the Senate to show up. I mean, the Senate Democrats say they're very upset about these 9 bills, but yet they won't be bothered to show up to work and vote for the bills. You know, if the table were turned and I was upset about the 9 bills, I would have been in the next day with my team, with the House Republicans, voting on those bills. So how upset can you be if you're just going to wait weeks and weeks and weeks to come in and vote the 9 bills? And the answer is they're more worried about, you know, campaigning, and many of them are going on very lavish trips. And hopefully the Mop Up Michigan will end that too when we get it done. But these people will go all over the place. They're on many trips, the Democrats. And so they can't be bothered to come in and vote for the 9 bills. So hopefully the action we took today will put some pressure on them to come in and do their job and vote to make this thing the law. We don't have to wait for the special interests to try to corrupt the election and defeat this thing. We can make it happen now if they come in and vote, and I hope they will. But so, you know, maybe the 9 bills will motivate them. Maybe this Mop Up Michigan, we can finally close that deal and get the money out of politics. Maybe that'll do it. And then, there's a lot of deals still to be made before this legislature's done, and I think we could be working on those things. So I'm hopeful we do. But I felt like it was more probable that we could get them to come in and adopt the proposal than it was that we could get them to agree to an alternate measure. I just, I didn't see the commitment to do that, because there are a few things about the proposal that are not ideal, but it's that way with a lot of votes. I mean, when we did the roads deal, I wanted like $3 or $4 billion, and I had to compromise on $2 billion, and that was still the biggest roads deal in Michigan's history when we did $2 billion a year instead of $4 billion a year. But I didn't look at it as I'm not getting $4 billion, I'm against it. We said, look, it's a good thing, we're going to do it. So, and by the way, you guys see that I got the better end of that deal because, if they're not collecting, remember, it was dollar for dollar, cutting waste, fraud, and abuse to new revenue. And if the new revenue is lower than Whitmer projected, well, guess what? My cuts are still permanent. So I actually came out ahead on that. I got better than 1-to-1, dollar for dollar. It's probably more like $2 for $1 cuts to revenue. So maybe that's why Winnie Brinks won't come in. She doesn't want to lose another negotiation to me. Who knows? Yeah, go ahead.
Representative DeSanto was one of the only Republicans, I believe, to vote against the mop-up initiative. He said, if you look at the essence of this, by adopting it, it is to weaken it. It is so that with a 50-50 vote, mop-up could be wiped out. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think we had 57 Republicans here today, and 56 Republicans voted for it, including Steve Carra. And, Steve was just targeted by one of these dark money groups, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to defeat Steve. And I think, I helped Steve, and Steve worked hard, and he overcame it, just like I did. I mean, when I ran, it was the most absurd thing I'd ever seen. These dark money groups came in, linked to the utilities, and they put these ads on TV trying to link, and you guys are going to laugh when you hear this, liberal David Maturin with Donald Trump. So they were putting these things on the screen. It was David Maturin and Donald Trump, and they were trying to persuade people that David Maturin supported Donald Trump. Well, fortunately, that was so preposterous that it didn't work, and I won. But what if they had come up with a plausible argument and I had lost? That would have changed history, right? I wouldn't be here. Now, I overcame it, and likewise, they did the thing to Steve. But, sometimes they're successful. They've defeated a lot of people over the years. You look at what happened with Gary Glenn, right? They create a group called Faithful Conservatives or something, and they went after him and beat him, and nobody knew where it came from and So there's a lot of those examples out there where they did it and they beat somebody. So we're going to clean all of that up when we get the money out of politics, and we're going to stop these big state contractors, the utilities, the big hospital systems, the insurance companies from controlling politicians, and we're going to put this government back to working for the people. That's what we're going to do. And Jim and I have had disagreements before, but I was really proud to see 56 Republicans do it, and then it was 21 Democrats, including Ranjit Puri. So, these people that are attacking, well, I guess they're attacking Ranjit Puri and the Democrats too, because when we put the question before them, it was pretty bipartisan. That's why I think that hopefully when Winnie Brinks sees that, she comes forward and votes for it, because, you saw Puri vote for it. You saw 21 House Democrats vote for it. They certainly agree with me that we should act on it. We shouldn't leave it up to chance. They don't buy any of Brinks's arguments that this was designed to go on the ballot and that it's somehow circumventing the will of the voters. They voted for it. So Winnie Brinks is in the extreme minority here, and it's very hard to defend her position with the public if she believes that we should not do our job and act on this initiated legislation. And maybe Jocelyn Benson is telling her not to do it. I don't know. You know, Jocelyn Benson certainly has a very checkered record of doing the right thing. So a lot of people wondered, by the way, they asked me, does Winnie Brinks run the Senate or does Jocelyn Benson run the Senate? And I think we'll find out, because if this doesn't go up for a vote, then we know Jocelyn Benson runs it. If it does go up for a vote, then maybe Winnie Brinks does still run it. We'll find out. Go ahead.
Are you concerned that some of the industries here in Michigan have come out against the tariffs that President Trump has brought against Canada and the reciprocal tariffs that have followed? Are you concerned about the tariffs and the impact that they could have on Michigan?
Well, I'm not that concerned about what the big corporations think. You know, I've challenged them at times. I haven't seen which ones came out and expressed concerns, but you know, I don't think there's anyone who's taken on a lot of these big associations like I have. I mean, you saw when we took on the Michigan manufacturers and many other groups when we tried to end the mega credits, you know, which are these horrible deals where we're paying hundreds of millions of dollars to the most successful and connected corporations in Michigan. And all they have to do is not lay off thousands of people. That was a horrible deal. And I'm hopeful, while we've been stalled on that this year, I'm hopeful that that's something we can do next year with a much better Senate leader, whether that's Roger Houck, who I hope it is, or Darren Camilleri. You guys know Darren Camilleri owes me, so we're going to bring that mega credits back up and say, listen, Darren, you owe me. Let's end the mega credits. That's what we're going to do. We're going to end the mega credits. And maybe we'll have a better governor who can, on that subject, who can end the mega credits. So I've taken them on, right, these same people. But I think you see President Trump got a great deal on the Gordie Howe Bridge. And there was a lot of noise about the Gordie Howe Bridge. And in the end, even their leader, Carney, he came out and said that we were not going to get paid on the deal. And then it turned out he was misleading the Canadian people. And what happened in the end was Howard Lutnick, Pete Hoekstra, and President Trump, they negotiated a great deal. We're going to get $300 million over the next 15 years because of that deal, because we're going to get 50% of the revenue from the bridge after some small operating costs. That's a big deal. So this was the same thing. There was a lot of noise. The Canadians were talking a big game, and then in the end, they caved, and Donald Trump got us a great deal on the bridge. So I think we'll see that here too, where you had some really productive negotiations on the tariffs. You know, the Canadians are really taking advantage of the automotive industry. They're hurting our auto workers. You look at what they're doing to the dairy farmers. They're boycotting American products on the shelves, including liquor. And I think we were very close to getting a deal that opened up those markets and opened up the American markets. So it's got to be a reciprocal deal. Both sides have to lower their tariffs and make a deal. And I think we were very close. And I have confidence that President Trump will get the Canadians back to the table and make an equal deal. It's kind of interesting. Canada is like the size of California in population. You think about it. It's a pretty small population compared to the United States. They're very dependent on the United States. And ultimately, I think they'll see that, they'll make a deal. And both will benefit from it, just like we did on the Gordie Howe Bridge. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Beth, and everyone else. Great to have you back. Do you miss this? No?
It's always fun.
Remington does. No, I don't. Well, the rest of them, they run from you, except for when they want to vote. They want your vote. Then they get right in front of you, and then when it's time to govern, they disappear. But I thought I'd give you guys a little break because of the campaign. I thought, make it easier on you. But great to be with you again, and really, you can take your time and really look at these awards. I think it'll inspire you guys. So thanks, guys. I'm gonna go put this one up.